I just want the audience to hear this loud and clear. Screens, technology is here to stay. We
Mhm.
get it. There is no avoiding it. And I'm not even saying that all screen time is bad. And I don't think you would say that either.
No.
All use it. But what we have lost is our ability to be discerning about how we use it and to help our children understand the difference between wasted time or passing time as opposed to using it as a tool to help them with research, to get information
Right.
about a project that they're doing.
Welcome to Real Talk with the Parenting Blueprint Coaches, where we discuss all aspects of parenting using the foundation of understanding personality dynamics to raise independent, responsible, and resilient children. My name is Karen Wagner, founder of Teaching Our Youth and the Parenting Blueprint. Let's dig right in with today's topic and have some real talk with the Parenting Blueprint Coaches.
Janet Beck, welcome to another episode of Real Talk with the Parenting Blueprint Coaches. You know me as Janet Krebs, one of the coaches, and today I am delighted to be joined by Shannon Coulter. Welcome, Shannon.
Hi, Janet. Thanks for having me today.
Shannon wants to raise happy kids with healthy habits. I think we can all agree to that. She uses adventure stories and activities to give parents, homeschoolers, families, and teachers fun tools to help kids build character, use their imagination, and find a healthy balance with technology. Shannon started her career as a communications consultant and a wellness advocate, but now she's using her love of writing and animals to inspire kids to do better, be better through one of the best medicines there is. That leads into a discussion of Fassa Tails, but I think we're going to talk about imaginative play first. So welcome, Shannon. We've got a lot to talk about. And since May is Mental Health Month, I can't imagine a better discussion than about play. Thoughts?
Well, we have seen, first off, let me take a step back. I started noticing what technology was doing to children back in 2008. I walked into being a mom. I am a stepmom, and so I was immediately with children. So I come totally thinking I know everything, and I walk in this 4, 8, and 10 years old. And I say to them, go out and play, because that's what I did. So I'm Generation X. So I was like, I'm just going to tell them to go out and play. And within 5 minutes, they come back inside and they're, Miss Shannon, we don't know what to do. And I was astonished, like absolutely astonished and horrified. So of course, because I'm, again, back then 31 years old and thinking I know everything, I assumed it was my husband and his ex-wife that caused this problem with children. I'm like, oh, they just must be terrible. So because I was a wellness advocate, a communicator, I started doing research, because that's what I did within companies. And I discovered that this was not just a phenomenon in this home, but it was starting to have an effect on children everywhere. And this was back in 2007, 2008.
Okay.
And we started this journey back then, and then things happened in life. And we're up now in 2025. And holy cow, are we seeing the effects that technology had on that generation and is having on the next generation coming up? I can say that the program that I'm doing now, I did with my kids back then, and they are all healthy, happy adults with a good balance with technology. But it took effort, and it took giving them something to do that wasn't technology. You can't just tell kids not to do something and not give them an alternative. So that's what I wanted to do now, since I did it for them and I saw it work. I feel like, Janet, since we're the generations that's saying we had the best childhood, we were out playing, but then our kids were on technology, and then the parents today have this thing that is in their faces everywhere. There's no escaping it. I feel like we have the onus on us to help them give their kids a childhood like we had.
How do kids today? So we're just going to call you like a fun fanatic for today's conversation.
Okay. I like that.
We need more fun fanatics. I think even as adults, sometimes we forget how to have fun. And that would be a great man in the mirror moment for all of us. Like, when was the last time you actually had a great belly roll laugh? And what was it about, kind of a thing? Like, we've gotten very serious.
Yeah.
Have we forgotten how to have fun? And
That
how
is so,
that role, how does that? If the answer is yes, because by your reaction, I'm thinking that's a definitive yes. If the answer is yes, how do we get back to it?
so that's an awesome question. I'm going to go back to the 31-year-old. So I'm sitting there going to these children, I'm going to give them some ideas. I'm going to give them ideas of what they can do. Well, guess what? Because it's kind of like a downward spiral, because they're on technology and they're not learning to play, they're not coming up with play ideas, they're getting back on technology. See what I'm saying? It's going down, down, down.
So what is actually being compromised? Their ability to be creative.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they're coming to me and saying, what do I do? What do I do? And I, at that age and now older, can only come up with so many things. And that's okay.
Because being the activities director was not part of when you have children, this is what you do. It wasn't page 30 of the owner's manual.
And so I could go out and I could Google activities, but then you're out online and the amount of, like, there was Pinterest back then, and there still is, but all these things, now there's Instagram and all these activity sites, then I'm being bombarded and it was too much for me. So what I wanted to do, and I'm coming to my company right now, but what I wanted to do is say, hey, parents, let this company give you 20 ideas for the moment you're in right now, so that you don't have to be the imagination station for your kids. That's what I called myself, the imagination station. And yes, Janet, do we have to have more fun? Absolutely, we do. Because the screen time that's affecting kids is affecting us too, for sure. I mean, there's studies everywhere about it, but it isn't the role of parents to be with their kids all the time. And I don't think it's fair to expect that from people. It just isn't. But if your kids aren't developing their creativity, well, you have to step in or they're going to be on screens. So we have to, as a group, we have to come up with something that the kids are developing that imagination muscle, like you said, because then we go the upward spiral where we're developing our muscle, then we get outside and play. And like we did, they want to stay outside and play. And the screen is just an alternative when I'm tired. So I'm sure you've been
like if it's a rainy day or if it's winter or whatever, and I just want the audience to hear this loud and clear. Screens, technology is here to stay. We get it. There is no avoiding it. And I'm not even saying that all screen time is bad. And I don't think you would say that either.
No.
All use it. But what we have lost is our ability to be discerning about how we use it, and to help our children understand the difference between wasted time or passing time, as opposed to using it as a tool to help them with research, to get information about a project that they're doing, to learn about a foreign country that they're interested in, to learn about a leaf that they found on a nature walk that is so interesting to them. And they're just curious, what was the plant that I found or whatever. So
and how cool that you can do that now.
Yeah, we don't have to go to the encyclopedias anymore. That was me. That was my growing up. We just went to the big cabinet, opened up, whatever alphabet letter we needed. And we didn't have this stuff. So it's not all bad.
No, I would say I'm not screen free. I want people to be screen light.
Say it again.
Not screen free, screen light.
Light. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So think about this scenario. So I'm hoping most people here, because it's like my favorite thing in the world, have been to a water park. I love water parks. But usually at every water park, there's the place with the games, the arcade. Okay. When you go to the water park, you're not going to see that many kids in the arcade until the end of the day, because kids actually, the other thing that we need to address here is kids actually crave playing. They want to play.
Yeah.
We have taken that away from them. If you think about your childhood and I ask you your favorite memories, again, our child was a little different, but I'm not going to tell you the 5 hours I spent online or on Nintendo, right? I'm going to talk about playing in the fort or doing Ghosts in the Graveyard or something like that. That is what that's what we loved. Our kids love that. We have to give them that back. So if you think about,
I dare you to ask me what my favorite childhood fun memory was.
I'm scared, but I'm going to ask you.
This will really date me, but the audience knows I'm currently 61. Back in the day, my ice cream man used to let me ride with him and hand out ice cream, and then he delivered me back to my house. No creepy, no nothing.
See?
His
And
name was Tom, and he came, rang the bell. I jumped in the truck with him, went all around the neighborhood.
that's amazing.
Right? That's oh my gosh, that's 50.
It's amazing. And mine, I brought it up. Mine was Ghosts in the Graveyard with all the scary older boys in the neighborhood. I was terrified the entire time. But you know what? Now I'm like really a bold human being. I was so scared. But
Okay,
it was,
we digress, but it's still,
yeah, but it was safe. But
case
look
in point. Case in point. Look at the levity and
we
look
just
at
got
the
fun.
brightness in our faces when we discuss the fun of yesteryear. And that will actually, let's pause right now in case I forget at the very end and invite everybody. The challenge for this episode is within the next 72 hours, you must go do something that brings that exuberance and fun and brightness to your face. Okay, I interrupted, but
Well, it's doing no great. I love that challenge because it's so good for us. And when you feel it happening to you, you would do anything for your kids. It's why you're watching this podcast. Like you will do anything. You're searching for it. Well, you want to give them that kind of childhood that you had. You want to give that to them. That's the magic. That's the joy. So back to the arcade. What my point was, if you bring kids to a water park and you give them the choice to go into the arcade or to go into the water, they're going to go into the water 9 times out of 10. They are going to love it in there. And the only time they go to the arcade is at the end of the day when they're tired.
right.
That's when they're tired. That's how it works. And we have to put the phones away and the screens away like it's the arcade at the end of the day. Not that kids can't have it, but not all the time. It is not good for them in several ways. And I was reading, I'm looking, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan. I don't know how to say his last name. It's Haidt. Hate. That's not great. I don't know, but it's an amazing book. And he came out with it in 2024, I believe. And I'm sitting there going, that's what I was seeing. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And he was saying, and I love this, he was saying, you can kind of think of technology as cigarettes. And when they came out with the cigarettes, and now when people smoke, we know it's not good for you, but if you decide to smoke and you're older, that's your decision. Now they think nicotine, I'm kind of taking this further than he did, but they think nicotine might be good for you. So you can decide to put a nicotine patch on, you can smoke, your decision. But all of us would completely frown upon handing a cigarette to a child. Well, we're essentially doing that with our technology, with what they're discovering, what it's doing to people. We're doing that. So I want as a society for us to like kind of start poo-pooing that again. And that's bold, but we have to. The statistics are horrible. This is something I told Janet I wanted to share. Since 2010, major depression among teenagers has risen by an astonishing 145% in girls and 161% in boys. That is terrible. And it's,
I would actually use the word unacceptable.
It's unacceptable.
And it's on us. Like that's a total man in the mirror moment because a lot of that, I mean, obviously mental health is a real issue with our young people. However, I would almost bet that a lot of the people that fall into those astounding statistics, it's preventable.
Yes. And there's stuff that happens to you that is unavoidable. I mean, you can have anxiety if something bad happened in the pregnancy while you were in the womb. There's all these different things. But what's interesting is, and I'm not a doctor, but I can read, and I read that it doesn't matter what put you through the anxiety, your brain doesn't know. So it doesn't, my brain doesn't know if Shannon had something happen when she was in her mom's womb or something happened bad on technology. My brain's not figuring that out. So what I would challenge people is you have control over the screens that's causing that anxiety. Okay. Were you going to ask something?
I think people are starting to get that.
Yes.
I think we've made that point, and I think people understand that it can't be a 24/7 plug-in. And I think even our young people are starting to understand that as well. Not so much the teens and 20-year-olds, but definitely the 30-year-olds, my children, they totally get it. So our advice, so let me just share with people your superpower, which is not only are you this incredible, effervescent young lady, however, you're also an author of Fassa Tails. And these are books and activities that teach kids life lessons, how to be strong in their minds, hearts, and bodies. The stories include mental and physical activities that help kids practice these important life skills, all while jumpstarting their creative juices. Tell us about your superpower as an author and what is now, 7 tales in the Fassa Tails?
Yes, 7. So real quick, the stars of the 7 tales are animals that my husband and I had as pets. And so they're just super dear to me. And I wrote 7 different personalities so that kids can relate to one of the characters. The main character is Fassa. It's like Mufasa, but I always joke about this, but I changed his name to Fassa so Disney wouldn't come after me. So, like,
I
I'm
was
not even
thinking
doing
about that. It was like,
Yeah.
you come up with that. It sounds like Mufasa. And so actually I was right. Okay, good.
Yeah, so it's and then I've added an S. So it's fun, activities, stories, service, awards, because everything has to be an acronym now, right? So that's what FASA stands for. And currently I have 4 books out there. And what they are is, when I started doing this back in 2008, I looked at the children's books that were available, and they're better now, but a lot of them were not challenging children. And it really bothered me because I felt like we were dumbing down our children, and our children are no different than we were. It's what we're challenging them with. So I wanted to challenge them. So I wrote rather long stories with big words, and they're not too long, but I have a lot of words with one image and a lot of words with the next image, because I wanted kids in the story to start using their imagination. Let's not show them everything that's going on. So we do that in the story. And like I said, I use bigger words. And then at the end of the story, I give a life lesson. After that, there are 2 plot twists. And what I always say in my books, there's a lot of meat in that sandwich. I jam-packed it because I thought, Janet could, when Janet was younger, she could read the stories with her kids, and then she could hand the book and they could go to grandma and grandpa's house and finish it. I thought, or give it to a babysitter. I wanted it to extend a long period of time. So after I'll use the first story. It's called Where on Earth Am I? Fassa learns persistence pays off. And then I give the kids and parents 2 plot twists. And in that plot twist, they know what the happy ending of the story was. But in the plot twist, I show Fassa make a bad choice and the consequence of that choice. So I want kids to learn choices and consequences. So we do 2 little things.
Do they know? I'm sorry I interrupted you, but when you get a role, I know I have to interrupt you. Otherwise, I won't get in. Do they know they're learning, or is it more like a subliminal, intuitive, and then afterwards they just feel like they've learned something, but they don't feel like they're being taught to while they're reading?
I love that question. I explicitly am showing them that we're learning something. I said, this is what happened in the original story, but what if this happened? And then I say, for the first one, it's if at first you don't succeed, try again. I tell them what that means. And then we do a little activity to get Fassa back on track. So they're learning, but we're having fun. We're constantly moving. After those 2 plot twists, then we go into, I did hidden pictures because if you're like me, you grew up on highlights, when you found the pictures.
Love that.
I had to put those in there. Apparently they're really hard though. I know where they are, but I've had parents be like, Shannon, really? Like, just longer for the children. There's coloring pages. And then I had said, I forgot the biggest part. There's 5 activities that also reinforce these lessons. So there's a 5 senses scavenger hunt where we go on a scavenger hunt. There's something called fear not, where we address a fear. Everything has the activity. We've got very simple materials because I don't like shopping. I hate shopping. So I didn't want people to have to be there like finding all this weird stuff. No, it's pencils and pens and stuff like that. But my favorite part about it, we do extra challenges, and then we have the things to talk about. And that, by far, I always say is my favorite thing, because I give 2 or 3 to 5 questions that the kids have to come back and talk to grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, babysitter about what they just learned. And I love that because I can give the value that persistence pays off. But now you, parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, you can instill your values into your kids while you're talking. So, in one of them, we do an activity where a cat has lost its claws, and we talk about how difficult it is for people with disabilities. Well, I can state it, but now you can talk about someone with disabilities and teach that value.
Help our audience understand, because we're already like, oh my gosh, that sounds so cool. So let's just say book 1. What age group are we appealing to most, and approximately how long would it take to get through? the entire,
Okay.
because it sounds like
A lot.
a lot. Yeah.
Yes. So I answered
Not a
this with
bad thing. That's a good thing.
good thing. I answered this with a lot of flexibility. Also within the book, to answer the questions, there's coloring pages, a word quiz where they go define those big words, and word searches. So lots of stuff going on, constant learning. I have said the sweet spot, I developed the activities with teachers. And I would say the sweet spot is 6 to 8, but I feel weird about that. And I know all the parents on here will know.
Age, not grade.
Not great. Yes, 6 years old to 8 years old.
Okay.
But I've had 4-year-olds do it and I've had 12-year-olds love it. So you know your kid. You know, Janet, you and I have talked about it's kind of a fault that we have ages and classes. You know what I mean? Like these kids are in this class because kids are different. You might have a really advanced 8-year-old and a really, I want to say childish 8-year-old, but you know what I'm saying? Like kids are very different.
So probably just elementary or upper elementary.
I think so.
Yeah. So anybody within that can read, obviously. Or
and I do have within the books, I have links out to YouTube where I do narrate the kids for the children. It's just my voice, just in case you are in the car and I want them reading so they can look at the words while I'm narrating to them. And I have every activity out there too. I don't sit online with them. I tell them what to do. And then I put a timer up so that they have to go do it. That was just for me helping, like with grandma and grandpa, they want a little break when they're over and they're like, I don't want you to be online. I want you to be doing something active. So I provided that. So how long does it take? That really depends on you and your child. I have had people do this in a morning and I cannot believe that, but I've also had people be able to do one activity a day. So you have it last a week. You know, you read it one day and then you do one activity a day. So it's really up to you.
So a great challenge again. Gee, Janet's full of challenges.
And you're very challenging today.
But you know what? I'm A-okay with the challenge of go have fun. So obviously I'm going to encourage everybody to go grab a Fassa Tail, at least number one, just to get your feet wet and be introduced to the lovely Shannon, the characters, the format, and the extensive hours, it sounds like, of activity and fun and engagement for your children. And that would be to just go find the first one and dive in, right?
I think so.
Like summer is coming. You are parents. You already know what's coming. Mm-hmm. The activities director hat is calling you on the shelf of your closet. You know you're going to have to be putting it on very soon, and or the babysitter or the camp or over the weekend or the I'm bored. Like coming. School is almost out. It's May. It's coming. So I think my challenge would be for everybody to go find just the first one. You don't have to buy the whole series. Go dip your feet in, get introduced to Fassa Tails. How do they find Fassa Tails?
The easiest way is to go to my website, which is sscoulter.com, or they can search for Fassa Tails at SS Coulter on Amazon. But if they go to my website, it has links to everywhere you can buy them. So I think that's the easiest route there.
Okay, so for the listening audience only, Coulter is C-O-U.
C-O-U-L-T-E-R. Again, it's C-O-U-L-T-E-R, and SS is like a ship. So the SS Coulter. So it's sscoulter.com.
Yeah. Coulter ship, and go grab yourself a Fassa Tail.
Yeah, and out there too, I have other free activities and coloring pages and word searches. So if you want to, dip your toe in that way too. So yeah.
So if we were to leave our audience with, this is so much fun because I'm usually the one answering the questions. I love interviewing you today. One key takeaway.
I'm going to go back to what I said before because it's really my why behind this. I want you to take Janet's challenge and go have fun yourself, feel how that feels, and then deliver that to your children and know that they want to play. They want to be outside. Technology is a draw. It is addicting. It's purposely addicting. So help them get off of it. And let's support each other in this. So, if you see somebody out with their kid in a restaurant and the kid's having a meltdown, support them getting the kid out of the meltdown versus giving them a phone. If we can do that, it's going to be much easier for everybody. So, yeah.
I love that. Shannon, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Audience listening and watching. We've talked about technology a ton, and perhaps not even enough. This is one of our most insidious addictions. So, Shannon, I thank you personally and on behalf of all of our listening audience for coming up with a solution. It's one thing to talk about the problem, it's another to offer the solution. And it sounds like your solution is a brilliant one and a creative one, and most of all, a fun one. So, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having me, and everybody have a fun week.
I love that. Have a fun week, everybody. Bye for now.